It is 11:16 and welcome everybody online and here in the room to the Helsus Global South Encounters. My name is Milla Nysälä and I will be chairing this event today. As we discussed, I'm Chief Researcher at the Labour Institute for Economic Research here in Finland. And additionally, since 2019, I've been contributing to the UN Wider's country program on Tanzania called Sustainable Development Solutions for Tanzania, strengthening research to achieve the SDGs. And we've published multiple development economics papers and some important multidisciplinary work too. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our speaker today, Karoliina Kantola, who is a bright scholar from the University of Helsinki. She's in the doctoral program on political, societal, and regional change. She's also a member of the board of the Finnish Cooperative Research Association, Kooperatiivi ry. Kantola's research interests include sustainable development, political economy, the global south, feminist approaches, and minorities. And her work appears in academic outlets, such as the Review of Black Political Economy. Karoliina Kantola graduated with a master degree from Global Studies from Roskilde University, and she also holds a master degree in journalism from the University of Tampere. Aside pursuing her PhD at the University of Helsinki, she works as the correspondent for the Finnish broadcasting company Yle in Denmark. Today we also have discussant, Dr. Mariko Frein. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
She's an associate professor of economics at Merrimack College, a Department of Economics at USA. And her fields of study are in international political economy, ecological economics, and development economics. And she has published her works in book volumes and journal articles, also in journals. Today's topic is called Gender and Sustainability, Conversations about Microfinance in Tanzanian Female Entrepreneurs' Lives. And I want to say this is an important topic because while women in developing countries as well as the global south, whichever term we want to use, and in sub-Saharan Africa, in particular, they participate heavily in the labor market, especially in rural areas, but also in urban areas, and they are establishing businesses. Women, and especially female-headed households, remain still poorer than male-headed households and men, with less income, wealth, and capital. And so moreover, their company development is more stagnant, and they are facing a lot of different kinds of barriers to growth. So however, despite 2 decades of progress in progressive policies, especially in Tanzania, gender inequality in sub-Saharan Africa remains a challenge in many, many ways. So there, in our work as well as the literature, it is found that there are multiple implicit and explicit biases that women have to face, including inequality in practices in spheres of legal areas, all structural kinds of things in the society, educational, societal, cultural, norms, traditions, gender roles, market access, financial literacy, just to name a few. So among these important, an important initiative was the microcredit system introduced already a few decades ago. And it was a really promising new avenue to offer a way to give a kickstart to businesses as well as to protect people from hunger and risks. And just a few reasons, other reasons exist as well. And while it has been widely praised and promoted as a potential solution to the poor, for women and for women entrepreneurs, and for those in the informal sector as well, in Global South, an increasing body of literature has highlighted that its commercialization and implementation has created numerous issues, alarming issues. Problems over time already have been documented. So this has given rise to and more interest towards grassroots level and support to other informal forms of financing, microfinancing in businesses. So as we know, there are many very intelligent women in the Global South, and they're proactive. So they've started their own groups as well. They've come together to find their own informal savings groups and other types of informal means in these situations where offered instruments have shown to be poor and poorly designed, so that they have not really met the needs of women. So I think the research and the questions and conversations of today are very important, as they are going to address some of the key questions of the puzzle that these things have remained, at least when it comes to design and understanding better, have remained insufficiently answered. And so what I understand is that you will be shedding more light when the time is right, today or later, how the role of savings groups in women's lives and the role of the modern mobile technology in this context affects and the discussions in this area. So ladies and gentlemen and others, let me remind you of some housekeeping rules. So the entire event will take an hour. We are a little bit late, but maybe we can be a bit longer. So Karoliina will have 20 minutes to present her work. And then we have questions and comments from Mariko for 10 to 15 minutes, and then audience questions 10 to 15 minutes. So welcome, warm welcome, Karoliina, and the mic is yours.
Thank you again, Mila, and for the organization team. Let me start sharing here. So, as presented, my name is Karoliina Kantola. I'm a doctoral candidate at the University of Helsinki. And today I present you the context of my study and the upcoming field work in Tanzania, supposed to take place very soon this summer. It is now under title Gender and Sustainability: Conversations about Microfinance in Tanzanian Female Entrepreneurs' Lives. On my behalf, I also talk first a little bit of the context and where I come from, what has inspired me to do this project and work on it. Sustainable, as we know, includes and is a part and demands autonomy and in equality across genders, minorities, and continents. Women's remarkable contribution to a more socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable future is undeniable. However, women's financial strategies still tend to go unrecognized, unreported, or misrepresented in academia as well as in mainstream media. Also, currently, and since past few decades, many governments are reducing their development aid, Finland among them, or changing it to the so-called partnership model, changing from the unconditional development aid to partnerships between countries or financialisation of aid. Microfinance, as presented at first, the modern one most associated to the economist Muhammad Yunus, has been said and praised as the promise of poverty alleviation and women's empowerment, to give loans to the poor and women to start or expand their business, especially in informal sector. However, this non-profit solidarity model has changed and expanded to the new wave for-profit model. And the commercial microfinance today is estimatedly valued to $100 billion. Also, technology brings new financial solutions, such as mobile money, which with one can transfer, deposit money, or even take a loan through normal old-fashioned so-called mobile phone. Similarly, popular in Sub-Saharan Africa, East Africa especially, the transaction value worldwide today is estimatedly as much as $1.4 trillion. So we are talking big markets and the worldwide issue. Also, at the same time, the system behind microfinance, where the modern microfinance actually is originated from women's traditional loan and savings groups and cooperatives, which are governed by the members. Those are increasing. Those include, for example, rotating savings and credit associations, ROSCAs, in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, village community banks in Tanzania especially, and self-help groups in South Asia. With different variations, they have same principles of being equal members. One can pool money and possibly take a loan through the group fund. And those groups are the focus of my thesis, to find alternative ways to the commercial microfinance, together with mobile money. At the moment, the literature on both mobile money use and mobile money loans, as well as women's savings groups, is still scanty or often looked at from a narrow perspective. Similarly, reporting in international media is even more limited. So we have demand for more discussion and publicity to the topic. Often the research has used quantitative methods, for example, the financial benefits of mobile money to the users or to the companies behind them. Women and the poor have been looked at as a homogeneous group and neglected the intergroup differences. Often the policy reports take the top-down approach, similar to the mainstream economics, instead of listening also to the local people's point of view. The literature, the studies show contrasting results of the impacts. And also there's more evidence so far in South Asia than Sub-Saharan Africa. Currently, microfinance system can be roughly divided. Those who see the system as a win-win situation, both the loan givers and loan takers would benefit. The World Bank has been one of the proponents of this microfinance system. Suri is one of them who sees mobile money as a beneficial and empowering tool to the poor and women and men in the global south. And then we have the other side who say that microfinance is only disempowering the women and increasing inequality. Bateman, one of the strong critics. Natil has brought and questioning if the mobile money really benefits the users or only the big companies behind them. Tanzania, my case country, is a growing East African economy which still struggles with poverty, was also severely hit by the pandemic. It has a high women's entrepreneurship rate, especially in the informal sector. It's a neighboring country of the mobile money pioneer Kenya, where M-Pesa system service, nearly a synonym for mobile money today, was launched. And it's a country where I have already some experience and contacts, and this was the justification for the case country. And currently my research questions are: what role do women's loan and savings groups play in female entrepreneurs' lives? And how does technology in such group loan models promote or hinder the economic status of women entrepreneurs in Tanzania? My methodology is based on in-depth interviews. And as referred before, I aim to do the field trip in this summer. I will interview women who are members of these loan groups, and they have either taken the loan also besides saving or not, to compare the benefits and the use of the loan. I will ask from the women how they participate in the savings group activities, if they have taken the loan, how big, how many times, for what purpose they took it and eventually used the loan. How about the mobile money? Do they have the account? Do they use it for business purposes or other purposes? Have they taken a loan for it? Why or why not? And how the impacts have been. How about the economic situation after starting a business or taking a loan? Also, I will ask and look at the role in the society and the household, if it has changed after starting one's business and taking a loan. And unlike many other studies on women's entrepreneurship or microfinance, I will also ask some of the husbands' points of view, how they see the family relationship and their wives' entrepreneurship after the women have started their own business. In addition, I will participate in the long group meetings and gatherings to observe the communication, how they work, and how the women find them. Now we go to theoretical framework, which is based on Black feminism. It has roots in feminism, the mainstream or heterodox feminism developed by white women, one can say. But Black feminism focuses on the marginalities. It is developed by African and Afro-American scholars. One of the core writers is Smith, who has pioneered in indigenous methodologies, how the scholar should listen to the local knowledge and appreciate what are the challenges and ways to get the trust of the local and indigenous peoples. Another one, Gordon Nemhard, collective courage author, talked how cooperatives can be a way to get training, run a business, or get even commodities which otherwise would be difficult or impossible to say to get in certain areas. Hossein is the mother of Black social economy, which similarly supports and emphasizes the role of money pooling groups and system in the communities where it's difficult to get formal finance, or due to the lack of trust of the authorities is the better opportunity and alternative. Crenshaw has coined the term intersectionality, which emphasizes the intersectional identities. If one is not only a Black, one is not only a woman or mother, can be intersectional, it is all those, and those need to be taken into account. Many of Black feminist scholars are based in the US or Caribbean, and therefore I want to implement and use the concepts also in the African context. It goes in line with stratification economics, also deriving and embracing African knowledge. It discusses social stratification, racial issues, and the power of communities. Darity and Hamilton talking about intergroup inequalities, the impact of crises on a person already in marginalities. Obenodu focusing on properties, land, and increasing stratification in Africa, while Ojong talking, for example, about solidarity economy, also an alternative to the neoliberal finance, where people's trust and possibilities can increase through different group models. I will introduce, and challenge also feminist theories, mainstream approaches, and entrepreneurship theories, which can provide me concepts, but also have to be developed. Shortly timetable, I have been working on the project for a few years by beside my other work as a journalist, submitted and published a few articles. And this summer, as said, now it's the visa project and planning of the practicalities to go to Tanzania. I'm a member also of the Helsinki University, Jyväskylä University, and two Tanzanian and one Zambian universities joint program, New Directions for Development Studies and Sustainability. The next program will be in Zambia in August. Data analysis continues after field trip. If needed, I will make a new field trip to ensure the data saturation later, and hope to finish the project in a few years. Let's hope. Thank you.
First of all, Karoliina, thank you so much for your presentation and for the opportunity to listen to your dissertation, your plans for your dissertation. I'll just give you a little bit of a background of myself so you can ask me any questions. Maybe I can help you somehow, I don't know. But I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Tanzania it's an American program where you are basically sent out to live in a village. So I lived in a village not about 9 hours from Arusha. And I was a physics and math teacher there. So I have some experience of living over 2 years in the village setting and experiencing the daily life of many village women there. And I have traveled for my dissertation and stayed in Dar es Salaam and worked on issues of land in Tanzania. So that is kind of my background. And I've talked to some Tanzanian NGOs. So if anything like that, my background sounds like it might be useful, please feel free to ask. But I guess I'm not a microfinance expert, but I have, I am an economics professor, so I have some questions. I will start off, and you may, I'm sure, have researched into this far more than I have, but I want to start off with trying to understand the current state of microfinances in Tanzania in general, and compare that to some other countries where I have read quite critical things about microfinance, to better understand the kinds of lending that you're going to be studying, right? The group lending, it seems like, the self-help groups, the village community banks, and how they really differ and can avoid the pitfalls that we see in some countries. Like Cambodia is the one I'm most familiar with, but I've also read about India, Bosnia, Nicaragua, Pakistan, where microfinance has gotten into some problems. So you may already be aware, but this shift in the microfinancing from collateral-free groups to ones which very much are dependent on having collateral backing up the loans. And also kind of private entities, sometimes foreign investors, being the ones doing the lending, right? Versus like the kind of grassroots village community groups organizing themselves. So what I have read a little bit, I'm not an expert, is cases of very high interest rates, of collateral that is land. And so disturbingly, a lot of people throughout the global south losing their land with these kind of predatory interest rates. And also, you know, the profits going to private entities and foreign investors. So what I'm very curious about is an alternative to that, because I think the things that you have mentioned, they sound really good, like Black social economy, solidarity economy, somehow addressing social stratification. And I think that the intuition that there needs to be some sort of financial system that can really promote a solidarity economy is actually very important. The question that I have is, what are the differences in the kind of grassroots group level that you're looking at? How are they going to avoid the pitfalls and avoid that, resist that trend that we see happening in other countries? So I'll stop there, but is it clear what I'm asking?
Yes, shall I answer right away, and then you come to the next question, maybe better? Yes, thank you so much for the questions. The question first and the feedback and really interesting background. I am looking forward to hearing about it more and being in touch. Indeed, there are some differences between the commercial microfinance and loan groups. In my experience, what I have seen myself before in Tanzania and read literature is that in Tanzania there are banks and also microfinance institutes which may provide some trainings or then not, but often exactly require collateral. They have much higher interest rate, which have been either pressed the women to take another loan unless they have succeeded in the business, that they are able to pay both the loan and the high interest rate, which can be up even as much as 80%. While the loan groups, when people put the money to the group fund, they don't need the collateral, the interest rate often is lower, and they can only save money. And that is one what I want to also explore in the field, is the saving enough to a person, to a woman, to make the business sustainable and get in that way more with the lump sum they get, either by saving themselves or rotating to buy, say, a sewing machine, and therefore continue and expand the business. Did I answer to your question?
You did. I'll follow up. What happens in case of defaults, and can we avoid? Are they able to? It would be great if they are, but are they able to avoid a situation where if they default, the consequences set them back more than if they had ever joined the group, right? Because that's the problem. You know, if you default, what are you going to lose? So if do these groups have something to deal with people defaulting and not making it so onerous on the individual? And then if they default, not making it onerous on the group either. So how do these groups deal with defaults? Because they have to pay back their loans, right?
The internet connection was a little bit unstable, but if I missed some of your question, then please tell me. But that is true. There are also drawbacks in both systems. For example, in the loan groups, often the women know each other already beforehand, and sometimes it's a prerequisite to joining the group. That can help women to support each other, but also make it more challenging to demand and be after one if one already has a good relationship, not to harm it. But in the default, in case of banks, the bank may go after the woman's property or the family's property. Bank advisor I have talked, and what literature as well shows, that unfortunately, if the loan is not used for the business purposes, it's more difficult to pay the loan back. And in that way, sometimes it may be women may use it, or men to their daily necessities or children's educations, but unfortunately, in that case, it may be difficult to earn money to pay the loan back eventually.
And are you going to ask about whether, because we're talking about women who even altogether may not have it, even if they were to pool all their capital all together, it may not be a large amount of capital. Are you looking just at how sustainable these groups are over time, if they're really able to pull together enough capital?
I hope that I could do that, and especially that in that case, it would be good to follow up with another field period. I wish to, and I believe that the questions can also be sharpened in the field, as I know exactly the group I'm engaging at. But that is also some reflections from the women. I want to hear from them exactly what they see, how they see it.
Hey, I'm not sure how much more time I have to ask questions.
Okay,
There's also one online.
Okay, so let's that's the question.
Let's take somebody else's question.
Do you want to read it from?
Oh, yes. So it's thanks, Karoliina, for your wonderful presentation. It's Isaac Abo Debuno Akolgo. I personally think that fintech beyond Kenya and to a lesser extent Ghana has not received sufficient research. It is great to see you are taking this up in Tanzania. In your experience in Tanzania, what are your initial observations about mobile money that you find consistent or contradictory to the literature you have discussed today?
Thank you. Very interesting question. And this is, again, something I really am looking forward to hearing and observing in the field, as the previous, which was undergraduate study, I didn't focus and did even know, to be honest, much about mobile money. It came later. I want to explore, and based on what I have talked with my colleagues in Dar es Salaam, for example, the mobile money may not be the way, the mobile money loans may be less used as in other way. So that will be something I maybe expect to find, that mobile money use is only in daily transactions or depositing money from a person to another. But I will ask if they prefer or they have tried to take the loan to the mobile money account, or is cash transfer better? I'm reading that.
So there was a follow-up question. Also, do you know how extensive the legal framework governing fintech and digital microlending is in Tanzania?
They talk about it in Tanzania, and there are similarly with the microfinance and mobile money. The governments are trying to put regulation in order to diminish the malign impacts. In Tanzania, for example, some of the profits what the agent get from the mobile money should be distributed or put to a charity, for example. But there are some differences between the countries. But in Tanzania's case, there have been discussion towards so-called more equal distribution of what the business gives. But this is also something that will need to have more research on.
Okay, thank you. And then next one, this is not really a question. Thanks for the interesting presentation. I am from Tanzania and quite aware of these groups. There are a few different types of these informal groups. Vikoba tend to be more semi-formal, but there are also these things called or upatu, where women pool their money and give it to someone. Are you looking at all kinds of groups or just Vikoba? Mobile money is now involved, for example, through M-Kopa. I will be happy to share what I know as well. I am from Hanke, researching entrepreneurship in the Tanzanian context as well. I will be happy to talk further to you later.
Thank you, Nema. I am really happy to talk with you as well, so we can change the context. So far, my experience covers Vikoba and I got the echo. Anyway, yes. So the idea is also to make cooperation with my local context and see through the context and possibly snowball sampling to find the proper and relevant and willing participants in the interviews. And those, if I do include two different types, groups have to then, of course, highlight and consider if it's better to only focus one model in this part of the research to narrow it down and keep concise.
Okay, and then we have Ladidi Kolo. Have you considered the women cooperative groups who raise funds from amongst themselves without having to go to the banks?
This is interesting question as well. And basically, some of the loan groups exactly work like that. So women put their own money without involving the banks, if I understood correctly this question. Most likely cooperatives and loan groups can parallel, but this point is savings groups where one can save or take a loan. It's the main focus.
Mm-hmm. And we have Dr. Abiud Bongole from the University of Dodoma in Tanzania. I thank you that one of your study will be done in Dodoma. You are welcome. My question is that access to financial to women in Tanzania is not only the cause of improving their businesses. How are you going to include variables which by one way or another, they have a contribution in improving women businesses? My concern is how are you able to control your endogenous problem?
Yes, that is an important point. Thank you. And thank you for your message and the question. Yes, that is true. And that is something that I also need to listen to and ask the women was the finance the challenge or the problem, for example, not to start before the entrepreneurship or starting the business, or was it something else? What the reason to start or not to start earlier the business, what one is running? And if this was the answer, and endogenous control. If I understand the question correctly, I want to say that it's important to indeed include local context and take some time to get the trust of the women, and also consider certain changes of the plans, withdrawing of the interviewees, or other obstacles which I may face.
Okay, then next question is Odile Macket. Great presentation and interesting study, Karoliina. The research questions sound clear, although the broad theoretical framework leaves me with some questions. Are you studying the mechanisms of microfinance and how it works specifically in the Tanzanian context? Are you looking at how women work together, literature on cooperatives, or are you looking specifically at gender relations and how they change when women get access to finance, based on your comment about asking women about their relationships? If it is all this, it would be good to see how this fits together more closely and form part of the same conversation.
Thank you, Odile, for the very valid question. My interest has risen first, and the motivation to start the process raised on microfinance. And as I have read more and seen in Tanzania how the women's groups work, I have become more interested in them. I think cooperatives and microfinance, small loan providing system, have to be discussed together. So I think it's justified to talk about the commercial microfinance as well. But here I want to focus on the loan groups. And I think also I am interested in asking more broadly questions. I understand it has to be not too broad, concise, but also based on what I get from the discussions and interviews. I hope also that I find the finding or the most relevant focus point for me. So these are preliminary questions, some of them, which I assume will be more clarified and refined in the field.
Okay, then we have Hanna Kosi-Elmska. Thank you for your presentation and congratulations. I'm Hanna Kosi-Elmska, PhD from Wrocław University of Economics and Business. I would like to offer a small piece of advice regarding the methodology. It would be beneficial to include in the questionnaire a group of women who are not using microfinance. Additionally, you can create an advanced SWOT analysis, including both opinion and some experts too. So question, do you think that the growing scale of Islamism may influence the use of microfinance by the women? Perhaps it is worth asking about this in your questionnaire.
Thank you, Hanna. I think in the beginning, I have had the option to include questionnaire, but going further with this project, talking with my supervisors, Ashim and Franklin, currently the plan would only be in-depth interviews to get a deep case study. But that may be something to be looked at deeper once again before going there. I think I don't do SWOT analysis. It could be interesting also to include in the informal sector, but I would think it would work better in formal sector businesses. Islam is the second biggest religion in Tanzania too, which is a relevant point, but currently it's worth considering, but I think I would leave it at the moment since I focus more on the position in the one's women's own position in the society and the household.
Okay.
Of course, you say that it can impact the use of microfinance. If the religion doesn't sound or feel too sensitive topic for the women to talk, then it might be an interesting dimension.
Yeah, and I guess the Islamic banking and the rules there, like the issue about interest rate, can you use the sort of thing, is probably the thing. Then Bongole, in Tanzania, we have loans for women, youth, and people with disability. These loans are from the revenues from the local government in Tanzania, where Dodoma city inclusive. I advise you will also interview the beneficiaries, especially women of those loans as well.
Thank you, Mila. Firstly, you started something really interesting and the connection froze. So if you want, you can after say it's again or write me or something. But thank you for Bongole. It's an important dimension, question and a point as well, especially when I'm talking about intersecting identities and when women are not a homogeneous group, there are different dimensions to their lives. There may be disabilities as well. So this is definitely something to look into.
Is there any open questions anymore? Yeah, no, maybe I don't know what was the exact point that was interesting, but yeah, in Islamic banking, I think it's you cannot really use interest rates in Islamic banking. So therefore, kind of how does religion affect then if there are very high interest rates? They use different kind of mechanisms. So yeah, something I think.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I would like to add, we have a project at UNU Wider right now going on social protection in humanitarian contexts. It's being collected right now in Tanzania and 2 other countries. And so it is very interesting to hear that you're also going to Tanzania to collect data among women. And so maybe we have some potential synergies. We also have people in Tanzania, Zambia, and Mozambique doing field research right now.
Sounds so interesting. And when I heard both of your presentations, I was so glad to hear and also for Franklin to arrange this and contact you, because it must be really fruitful and hear your long experience.
Yeah. As an economist, like economics researcher, we are often very interested on the kind of the design. And so in the theoretical work, we are working more on kind of understanding what are kind of the theoretical design aspects of better models and better systems. So I think it's really important to find these pieces of information from the women that could also feed into the theoretical processes and development that are coming from the field from the women. This is important work.
Thank you. It is true that the more I talk with people and read, the more I am convinced the importance of the field.
Yeah, and the shortcomings of the microcredit system have been kind of a lot in the literature, but also kind of theoretical work on both of the models is also important. So,
Thank you.
I think maybe we can start wrapping up the session unless there is more points coming up. So I think this was a very, very interesting discussion. The issues that came up, the points, I hope they are feeding into your process also and will be helpful. I think people have presented very nice views that maybe would not come up otherwise, and kind of different way of thinking about the problem, as well as specific questions. Is it better take a loan or not take a loan in the case of getting bankrupt or something? Also, all the contacts are probably very useful for you, and this has been very, very interesting for me, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing more of your research and happy to comment any of your work and keeping in touch. So thank you.
Definitely, thank you so much.